Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday, January 11th. Today is National Milk Day, National Step in a Puddle and Splash Day, National Human Trafficking Awareness Day, National Arkansas Day, Heritage Treasures Day, and, of course, a happy birthday to the Grand Canyon. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms, especially right here on YouTube. We're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us via Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a comment on the story most recently presented. But without further ado, we're going to pay a quick bill and we're going to get right back to the news.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit and hustle and diversity of our great city of Angels, and we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles.
Oh boy. I'm gonna go into my story first, you guys, because it's a quick little tale about some major confusion going on that I know Gretchen is gonna have something to talk about. Because the executive order for palm cards guiding law enforcement in Kentucky medical marijuana is very, very vague, and the cops are really confused. Days after Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear's executive order granting preemptive pardons for medical marijuana obtained out of the state went into place on January 1st, but there's confusion about how the order functionality operates and continues, raising fears that Kentuckians legitimacy seeking medical cannabis could still face criminal consequences. See, Gretchen? One element potentially contributing to that confusion are the palm cards Beshear said would be distributed to law enforcement officers across the state to provide guidance on the executive order and what to do if they encountered someone with medical marijuana in their possession. Through open records requests, LEO Weekly obtained copies of the palm card earlier this week. The palm card tells law enforcement that the person needs a document from a physician diagnosing them with one of 21 medical conditions, but does not describe what that document should look like. The lingering vagueness of the executive order and the palm card heightens concerns that people seeking cannabis out of state could still run into trouble. In a quote, "To me, everything is going to fall in the hands of the police officer, what they feel like doing that day," said C.J. Carter, state director for Minorities for Medical Marijuana. "It's totally up to them to bring that they aren't too many guidelines that they are aware of that they have to follow," they said. The executive order isn't going to make it convenient for anyone on the medical marijuana front. What will ensure it is that the fact that not a criminal that there is not going to be any criminals, they're saying, said Beshear on December 29th ahead of the order trafficking effect. The palm card acts as a checklist for officers, listing things a person they stopped will need to be in compliance with the executive order, including document from a physician, In addition to the unclear language about documents, the palm card also does not mention what happens if a caregiver procures cannabis for a patient by themselves and is stopped despite the text of the executive order extending pardon protections to caregivers. Instead, after the words information for caregivers, the card includes a website of the governor's medical cannabis advisory committee, which includes links to press conferences, information about the committee and the executive order, which does not contain information on caregivers. Bashir has previously said that the palm cards would be handed out to law enforcement across the state by January 1st, and the governor's office did not respond to questions sent on Tuesday about the executive order. LEO Weekly included a question about whether all law enforcement in Kentucky received the palm cards yet. And without any standardized documentation, Carter worries that people will fabricate documents to smuggle marijuana into Kentucky, giving medical marijuana a black eye in the state. Kangu Nijuhara, a policy strategist with the ACLU of Kentucky, worries that without additional guidance or standardization, law enforcement officers might view legitimate documents diagnosing qualifying illnesses as fakies. See what I'm talking about, Gretchen? The executive order provides little more clarity on what kind of documents patients need. It says that the signed and dated certification, the doctor must list their name, address, telephone number, and license number along with their diagnosis of the patient, but it does not specify a format for the document to be in. The executive order also does not mandate that the physician prescribe or otherwise recommend marijuana. Unlike states that have legalized only medical marijuana, there is no state-issued card or any other patient registration for Kentuckians seeking cannabis. In a quote, they say, "It's just a piece of paper. It can be forged. It can be typed up on its own. It's not an official document. It doesn't come directly from the state," said Carter. That's from the law enforcement, Gretchen. The lack of clarity over the documentation, accompanied by a broader misunderstanding, is about what the executive order actually does, with some people even believing it has legalized, the drug advocates say. And this article keeps on going on and on and on. And I have so many questions. I can't wait to hear what you guys all have to say about this. Do you guys think that law enforcement is going to be caught up, so to say, in the weeds on all this? And this is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News Hour. What do y'all think?
Well, Jason, I don't know why you are so confused and baffled by the story, since we covered it 2 days ago. I covered this story, the exact same story.
These cops, it's not the same story.
It's from Leo Weekly. They even used this. It's
no,
the exact same story.
This story is not from Leo Weekly.
Right.
They quoted Leo Weekly.
City Beat took it from Leo Weekly.
City Beat jacked them.
Nothing has changed. The palm cards are what they are. Kentucky sucks. Move along. Next story.
Hold on. Palm cards. I said this earlier. I'm going to say it to you guys again. You guys, when you hear the word palm cards, you don't think of Miss Chloe.
Miss Cleo?
Yeah, Miss Cleo. Yeah, Miss Cleo.
Rico.
Yeah, Rico's with us. Yeah.
Good morning, brother.
Yeah.
Big time tech difficulties this morning. I had to reboot my computer.
I figured out what Jason and Gretchen are doing is they're just laying the hype for the boxing match.
Oh yeah.
Jason's leaning into the Logan Paul school of internet dynamics.
Logan Paul's in some big he wants to be in that.
Well, I'm just telling you, there's going to be a lot of confusion, and the cops are already confused in Kentucky. So you already know that that's going to spell trouble for a lot of unknowingly Kentuckians, or maybe not even Kentuckians, just people that are forging cannabis recommendations. Just saying.
We shall see. Saying. Rico, what do you have for us today?
Yes.
Oh my God! You want to go deeper on that one? You want to go deeper down that rabbit hole?
No.
We're going to keep rabbit hole for the past 2 weeks. Jason Beck, get into the story.
I enjoy this rabbit hole, but go ahead, Rico. Go ahead. We have the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte. Yes, checking in. What do you got for us today, Rico?
All right, so my headline for today is from Thrillist by Dustin Nelson. So bear with me a little bit, y'all. Had to reboot everything here, but cannabis lounges could be the next big hotel perks. So I'm really interested to hear what the El Presidente has to say about this one. States and municipalities become legalized and decriminalized. Consistent issue popping up time and time again is, where are the consumers going to smoke? According to U.S. census data, home ownership among young households continues to decline year over year. Since the Great Recession of 2008, while home prices have risen steadily and interest rates have recently spiked due to the Fed attempting to fight back against inflation. So it looks like Americans 40 and under will be in a cycle over leasing for the foreseeable future. And most municipalities empower landlords with the right to evict should you get caught blazing up on their property, medical card or not. The rollout of consumption lounges so far, while pretty exciting to watch, has been a mixed bag. Until recently, the most notable legal consumption lounge model emerging market lawmakers have looked to mimic has been California. But the added hospitality industry-friendly flair given to Nevada's recent regulations have hoteliers. How do you fucking say that?
Hoteliers.
Hoteliers.
Yeah,
Hoteliers.
Yeah.
Hoteliers.
Hotel everything. And hoteliers like Denver's Chris Chiari salivating. Chiari was a visionary, a lifelong Floridian pothead, sold his home and moved to Denver 12 years ago after hearing solid rumors Colorado would soon go legal. Walking aimlessly through around his new hometown, he stumbled upon a historic castle-like building that spoke to his soul. The castle was Denver's historic Croke Patterson Mansion. Inside the mansion was a 9-bedroom boutique hotel, a bit of a fixer-upper at the time, but Chiari loved its charm and knew in his heart one day it would be his. In the article, he recalled the exact moment. I pointed up to the house and I said, I want to turn you into a marijuana bed and breakfast. Yeah, that whole backstory sounds like a complete crock of shit, but I will continue. The Patterson was up for sale again in 2018. Well, after Colorado went wreck and he bought it. Fast forward to 2023, the gorgeous bed and breakfast is thriving, a certified 4-star hotel and top-ranked Trip Advisor location. Check out the link that we have here, and I'm sure that you would agree. The whole bed and breakfast idea, though, has stalled out plenty of times along the way, but he's confident it'll come through this year. In a Forbes piece released last year, he said that the plan was to convert the Patterson into what he and his development firm, 420 Hotels, calls the nation's first weed consumption lounge inside of a hotel. A social utopia where consumption is normalized, commingling would occur between deep-pocketed connoisseurs and non-consuming travelers regularly. The hotel lounge area capacity is 42 people, way more than the rooms account for, so he sees it no different than a popular ritzy hotel bar where guests can consume steps away from their rooms, and locals looking for an upscale place to safely light up would be attracted to the gathering place too. Cannabis friendly is starting to emerge coast to coast, he says. Go outside, smoke on a patio. We won't look. We look the other way, right? We let you do this. I'm truly trying to create this other thing called cannabis hospitality. And unless you've achieved a license, you have not achieved cannabis hospitality. In the article, he says his goal is to build a space where people can feel relaxed and safe, where he can continue his goal to contribute to the normalization and destigmatization of cannabis possession and use. But legal and conventional hurdles alike remain in the way of Chris Chiari making his vision a reality. We're creating a smoke-filled room indoors, he said. Whether it's a restaurant or a tavern or a bar, it's about employee safety. It's about the ability to work for an 8-hour shift in a healthy and safe environment. He references cigar and hookah bars as examples where guidelines have been established for similar businesses and ventilation requirements in compliance with both state and local regulations, making it a slow and difficult process to achieve for any consumption lounge. Sarah Stewart, CEO and co-founder of Ritual Cannabis Hospitality, chimed in on the article on the state of cannabis hospitality as a whole. A lot of states have come online with not very good regulations. California was not so great. And a lot of people have adopted California regs. However, Nevada's are very interesting and exciting, and they make more sense. And they allow for the hospitality to come through. I'm hoping states look to Nevada to adapt these regs going forward. Chris Chiari's vision goes well beyond Denver, and he hopes to create a chain of hotels, the Patterson just being the first. This is meant to be a model that can expand to major cities like Chicago, New York, Boston, cities that will likely regulate this like cigar lounges, not for smoking on a patio, but for smoking inside in a bar-type environment. I see it as an amenity, and I see it as the most exciting and unique amenity in hospitality, period. So what do y'all think? Setting Chris Chiari's bullshit fluff storytelling aside, is he onto something here? Will we see Will we soon see weed smoking normalized in established luxury hotel lobbies and lounges, as opposed to dedicated lounge space openings and the full hotel conversions that we've seen popping up lately? Or is this just another Florida boy pipe dream? I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street for High 9 News. Jason Beck, as West Hollywood president of cannabis tourism and our resident expert in this field, what are your thoughts?
I mean, first of all, I'm not sure if he's the first, because I remember Palm Springs having a hotel that was made into a consumption lounge at the start of legalization. So I don't think that he's the first to do this, just for starters. However, I am interested. I want to does it mention anywhere in there if they're going to be selling liquor at this hotel?
He says it's going to be completely different, and there's going to be no liquor or alcohol allowed in the smoking section of the lounge, but they are going to offer pairings of food, and the same cocktail menu will be able to be served in the lounge area, non-alcoholic.
Okay, so all right, so I get what he's saying. So basically, what he's saying is that the hotel is going to sell alcohol, but in the designated area that's permitted as a consumption lounge, there are no alcoholic beverages, but you can order the same beverages that you could order off the bar, but just virgins that will be delivered to you in the consumption lounge.
Correct.
Okay. I
mean, this is gonna work.
I have another question.
It sounds like it's too many moving pieces.
So basically, you also could smoke, because from what you said, he said that you could smoke also in your room, correct? Like you could smoke on your balcony.
No, the lounge.
No, so not even in your room.
I thought you said that if you smoke in your room, they're just gonna be like, don't ask, don't tell.
He said that's the way people are doing it right now. He said the way that he wants it in his hotel is going to remain the luxury 4-star hotel, the way everything else is. However, the lounge area, like you go into any hotel, there's a bar area. He said that is going to be dedicated for smokers and non-smokers, and he sees non-smokers being able to commingle with the smokers alike.
I mean, I am dying to jump in here just really quickly. What experience does he have running a hotel? Like, I think let's look at what experience
he's been running it since
28.
He's been running it since 2018.
So it's doing great. He's just going to flip a switch.
4-star hotel. Yeah.
So he's just going to flip a switch.
Yeah. And he said that the hangups have been regulations keep on changing.
Yeah.
And he said right now he's just been working with the state because it is an enclosed area. It's not an open area. It's not a patio. It's not like a half and half, like where you like open a big garage door or anything like that. It's completely indoor. He said that's where the hang up has been, but he has received his conditional license, and he's just making sure that he can get it inspected and approved to get it up and running this year. He said the same thing was going to happen last year, and it didn't go through. He said, but all his ducks are in a row now, and he's hoping to get it open within.
But right now, he's still saying that he's a bed and breakfast. But there's no consumption right now anywhere.
There's no permitted consumption. So they're allowing people.
Spot, but they are allowing people. Okay.
They're allowing. Yeah, they have a don't ask, don't tell policy until they get their.
That's
permit,
what they. That's what the don't ask, don't tell is. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
I don't know. Despite all the naysayers, I think this is a good idea.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, shut up. So.
You guys must be related.
we have seen time and time again, and the data will show people will travel for cannabis. Yeah. I mean, 20% of tourists has said that they chose Colorado as a tourist destination because they legalized cannabis. And I think if you want folks out there just for cannabis, you need to give them a place to consume. And so a hotel makes perfect sense. People are going to come there. You want to offer hospitality. I think this is a good idea. I think it should be done. Absolutely. I think people go places all the time, and if they want to light up, they're going to buy some stuff, and they shouldn't be on a street corner hanging out in the smokers lounge by the bus stop trying to do it. I think if you make it a welcome, opening environment, I think that's a win-win for everybody.
If you look at the hotel, if you look at the link in the article to the hotel, it's nice as fuck, dude. It's nice as fuck, and it's not that expensive either.
What's not expensive? What's not expensive? 170 a night.
Yeah,
that's pretty
cheap. For a 4-star boutique hotel. It is in Denver, so I don't know Denver prices, but yeah.
Denver's expensive. Denver's not cheap to stay in.
So $170 a night's not bad.
Do you guys think it's going to just align with bed and breakfasts, or do you think we're going to have mainstream other regular hotels incorporating cannabis?
That's my question. So he says that he's trying to create that. He's trying to show the model. Yeah, he's already started like the 4-star hotel. He's already established himself in that lane. It's a beautiful spot, beautiful hotel. And he wants to create this as a franchise model, opening up in Chicago, New York, and Boston as well. And that's my question. Do you guys see like a big hotel, if this model works? Let's say the Ritz, you go to the Viceroy, you can go like wherever you want. High-end hotels, you see them opening up smoking lounges like this.
I think you're going to need a progressive hotelier to embrace this. Do I think Marriott or Hilton's going to do this next week? Absolutely not. But if legalization comes along, I could see a Branson or somebody. Does Branson own hotels? I'm sure.
Yep.
Virgin
He has the Virgin Hotel in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I could see someone like that who is out there and definitely a cannabis advocate putting one of these into their hotels. Absolutely. I don't see why not. But I
wonder what the gaming commission is going to say about that.
No.
Right.
You know, you say no Marriott, but Marriott owns Starwood now, right? I could see the W doing something like this.
I could see the W doing that. I mean, the W has always allowed me to smoke weed at all their properties. I've never had a problem smoking there.
I know the W Chicago on the right off the lake had a sex room, and you can actually get like plastic or like rubberized sheets.
Whoa, rubberized sheets, huh?
I've actually stayed in that hotel, Rico.
Yeah,
you
tried the rubberized sheets?
Hey,
we're all thinking.
Springfield rubberized sheets.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was good. That's good.
Let's keep it rocking and rolling.
Yes.
Let me get the intro since I came in late. You want me to get it?
You want to get it? Yeah, go ahead, Rico.
Let's get it.
Get it, Darl. Get it.
Up next, we got a spicy redheaded conservative with certified Mayflower roots and long-term Ellis Island paperwork to back it up. When she's not fighting with Jason Beck, she's known in DC circles over the years for cooking up bipartisan excellence in the kitchen and slapping down liberals on K Street. Up next, the founder of Panoptic Strategies and High at Nine's very own Washington insider, Gretchen Gailey.
Good afternoon. My headline is coming from Marijuana Moment. And the headline is Prior State Marijuana Convictions Are Giving Federal Prisoners Longer Sentences, a new report shows. Hundreds of people received more serious federal prison sentences in the last fiscal year because of prior marijuana possession convictions in states that have since reformed their cannabis laws, a new report published on Tuesday by the U.S. Sentencing Commission. While federal marijuana possession cases have declined dramatically since 2014, as more states' legalization laws have come online, the report highlights the long-term consequences of cannabis convictions in terms of federal sentencing. It also reveals how many federal defendants faced enhanced sentencing due to state-level marijuana possession offenses, even after their state's policy evolves to decriminalize or legalize cannabis. USSC said in October that it was looking into revising its guidelines to change how marijuana possession convictions should affect a person's criminal history calculation in sentencing decisions. Now it's produced data demonstrating why that reform may be necessary. In fiscal year 2021, there were 4,405 federal offenders who received additional points on their criminal history score because of a cannabis possession conviction, accounting for 8% of all federal cases. Among those offenders who got extra points, 1,765 were placed in a higher criminal history category that comes with an enhanced sentence. Almost all of the people who face more serious federal consequences got their marijuana possession record in a state that has since either decriminalized cannabis, legalized possession, allowed medical cannabis, facilitated expungements, or some combination of those policy changes. To advocates, this finding is another example of how the state-federal marijuana disconnect leaves some people more vulnerable to serious penalties, even as states increasingly move to adopt reform and federal prosecutions dwindle despite prohibition. What's more, USSC's report reveals that among the 1,765 whose marijuana possession offenses affected their criminal history category, 42% were Black and 40% were Hispanic. Overall, federal cannabis possession cases have dropped considerably in recent years, particularly as more states have elected to legalize marijuana in some form, and after the Justice Department released the so-called Cole Memo in 2013 that generally urged discretion in federal cannabis prosecutions. In fiscal year 2014, there were 2,172 federal marijuana possession cases. That dropped to just 145 in the past fiscal year. and 70% of people with possession cases over the past 5 fiscal years received an average prison sentence of 5 months. This is consistent with other recent federal data showing a downward trend in marijuana cases, including a recent finding that Customs and Border Protection cannabis seizures fell to a record low in fiscal year 2022, dropping nearly 95% over the past decade. The USSC added a notable detail about the trend in federal possession prosecutions, showing how the overall decline is largely attributed to reduced enforcement in the District of Arizona, which accounted for nearly 80% of all federal marijuana possession sentencings since 2014. As the number of such cases in the District of Arizona declined from a peak of 1,916 in 2014 to just 2 in fiscal year 2021, the overall federal caseload followed a similar pattern. For federal offenders sentenced for any crime type, however, prior marijuana possession sentences, both federal and state, often affected their criminal history calculations under the guidelines. You can go on to read more about this. This is a bit more of a lengthy article, but just the disparities that we see when it comes to Hispanic and Black criminals, as they deem them, for their possession, it really needs to be dealt with. I find it interesting that Arizona is the main problem of most of these convictions, and hope to see that they will take upon themselves a better way for figuring out criminal scores when it comes to possession, and perhaps Biden's pardons for federal cannabis will help them to see the light on how people should be looking at cannabis federally. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
What do you find interesting about Arizona?
Why do I find it interesting?
They've been like the model for. They've been like the model for throwing motherfuckers under the jail.
Well, I would think Texas has just a much larger border. I mean, I think there are plenty of other places that would enforce these kind of things, and I just find it surprising that Arizona is number one by far, 80%. That's quite.
I think what it comes down to is because of the national parks. I think this pertains, and that's the same reason why Arizona. 20% of the people that benefited from President Biden's pardons were from Arizona, were Arizona cases. And that was because of the amount of federal land that is in there in the national parks and whatnot. And apparently a lot of people get caught smoking in Arizona.
Probably the Grand Canyon, right?
Yeah.
Because
it's his birthday today.
Hike, but the Grand Canyon's like Disneyland.
It's whose birthday?
It's the Grand Canyon's birthday.
Oh, damn.
Today.
How old?
Token up.
I believe oh man. It was son of a bitch. It was my trivia question this morning too.
Totally like you lost that round of trivia.
No, I actually won the round of trivia. Roosevelt did it back in I believe in 1908, if I'm correct on that.
Oh, the carpetbagging socialist Roosevelt put that through.
Oh, God, here we go.
A Wyoming cowboy.
Yeah, it was the first Roosevelt.
The comments are popping off about just the fact that Arizona has a high population of indigenous people, and certainly indigenous people have been targeted by the war on drugs, and it's like you got to catch them all. Right? On these border states.
They're like Pokemon?
In these border states. It's very much Pokemon. I mean, you just have to say what it really is. I mean, the borders are open.
But they're not even close to catching them all.
And it's like the marijuana, a smell of marijuana. We're in session right now. And so there's a lot of talk about marijuana in my camp. And that's what the state calls it. And it's just sickening. As you dig deeper and deeper, it's like, oh, this is a massive moneymaker for the state. Private prisons and being able to lock people up, and you just focus on the brown people. Sorry.
It is pretty crazy in regards with that. What do you have to say about this, Rico? What do you think?
I think that I don't know, man.
You don't know?
Free all the prisoners. Free all the fucking prisoners.
Free all the prisoners. Free all the prisoners.
I think as long as we're able to make like legal money on the outside, like all of these cases, if they're non-violent at the very fucking least, they should be released. I don't give a fuck when everybody's like, oh, you can't do this. You can't. What are we going to do? What about the infrastructure? What about the fucking communities you've demolished? What about the families you've separated like over the years? Generations of wealth have been lost because people have been thrown in jail, and some for just having a joint in their pocket, and a lot of people for not having shit, but they were associated with it. My homeboys back in Virginia, if their car smokes, it smells like smoke. Nothing found whatsoever. They get locked up, do years. So I say release all these motherfuckers.
A lot of times it was 3 strikes too, 3 strikes, and they could find a blunt on them, and that would end up being their 3rd strike, something like that.
Yep, straight up. That's what I think, and I'm like, fuck Biden. Fuck
all right, we're gonna keep working on that. We're gonna keep it moving. We're gonna keep it when we got to pay a bill.
Respectfully.
Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX. Located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention like to get high at 9 for 10% off your full order. The thoughts and opinions and general overall shade on the High and 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in any country, area, or territory of any authorities. The views expressed in this room do not establish any fiduciary relationship, and our sponsors do not imply or constitute any endorsement by us or the expression of any opinion whatsoever on the part of any speaker on stage. If you're an easily offended person, the show is probably not for you, and you probably shouldn't have voted for Biden.
I love Joe Biden.
Run the commercial.
We have the CMO of Event High, the industry-leading cannabis-focused event ticketing and promotion platform that changed the game for good when Eventbrite didn't want none of that smoke. She's also the co-host and founder of the revolutionary professional women in cannabis networking series, Blunt Brunch. And today, she's joining us back on for 2023. Coming up to the stage, it is Adelia Carillo.
Hi, everyone. And I'm excited. Event High is getting out of public beta. We're going to be launching our V1 very soon. So things are happening.
Yeah, congrats.
So today's article, Unsealing Georgia Cannabis Applications Weighed. This is in the Valdosta Daily Times. A Fulton County judge plans to make a decision soon on whether to side with the Georgia First Amendment Foundation in its request to unseal documents related to applications for medical cannabis licenses. The license process has been in limbo since 2019, when state lawmakers authorized the legal growing and dispensing of medical marijuana in Georgia through the HOPE Act. The legislation created the Georgia Access to Medical Cannabis Commission, which was authorized to issue licenses to 6 companies for the growing, manufacturing, and dispensing of low THC oil in Georgia. So the 6 companies included were Botanical Sciences, LLC, True Leaf Georgia, Inc. Those 2 were chosen for the Class 1 production licenses, while the FFDA Georgia Holdings, TheraTrue Georgia LLC, Nature's Georgia LLC, and Trivana Remedy Inc. were chosen for Class 2 production licenses. An estimated 70 companies applied, and the commission issued tentative licenses to those 6 companies. The tight limit resulted in lawsuits from applicants that weren't approved. They actually alleged that the commission's decision-making process was very unfair and inconsistent in the scoring process. Now, South Georgia's Botanical Sciences and Florida-based True Leaf were issued those licenses late in September. However, they are expected to be delayed amidst this lawsuit. Now, earlier this year, lawmakers attempted to expand the number of licenses, but that effort failed to clear the General Assembly before the end of the legislative session back in April. There was a motion to unseal these records in Fulton County Superior Court so the public could have access to the scoring process of applicants. However, Administrative Law Judge Stephanie Howells in June ordered that pursuant to Georgia Code Section 16-12-2220, these matters have been designated as confidential. Accordingly, any documents submitted or filed, any transcripts, any recordings are going to not be subject to Georgia Open Records Act, and they will not be publicly disclosed. With this, she has also ordered that all cases referred to the Office of State Administrative Hearings by the Commission to be closed to the public and to all non-parties. They spoke with Matt Parrish of TheraTrue, Georgia, which was issued one of those licenses. And he added that he wants them to include all working papers, recorded information, documents, and copies produced by and obtained and produced by, they repeated this, and obtained by or disclosed to the commission shall be confidential data and shall not be subject to the Georgia Open Records Act. So more than 25,000 patients are actually on the state's registry to receive medical cannabis, and GFAF said the significant public interest in the licensing process should be considered before sealing any records. It does end with Fulton County Judge Rachel Krause at the January 6th virtual hearing said she actually planned to have a decision within a week regarding GFAF's request to amend Howell's order and unseal the documents. So this is Adelia reporting for the High at 9 News Hour. Do you think we are going to start seeing this happen more and more in other states, and do you think they should unseal these records? I'd love to hear from y'all.
I'm all for unsealing the records. I think we need Matt Taibbi to get in here and release it like a Twitter file.
Taibbi?
Yeah.
We have these same problems in California. We've had to fight to keep our security records secret because our Freedom of Information Act mandates that this be given out to the public, and we're fighting that. But every place where you have information that's sensitive like this, someone's going to want to keep it secret. And I'm a First Amendment guy. Unless there's some compelling reason to keep it secret, let's know who the players are and where the money's coming from and who they're backdooring into these businesses. Because I've seen every type of sketchy shit you can imagine. And we have pretty tight rules here. So, I like to know who's doing this, who we're involved in, so we don't have somebody in the background pulling strings with the money and operating these things. It's not allowed. I know felons doing this off the books, and it's, I mean, I'm a felon myself, so that's not a pejorative in itself. But some of these guys they're doing this because they're intended to defraud people.
Sunshine.
We do have Dr.
I recommend anybody just go and look at declassified documents. There's so much. You can hate Trump all you want, but he declassified so much shit. And look at declassified documents and take a half-second step back away from the 24-hour news cycle and see how much shit has gone down that our government has kept quiet over the years. There's so much available for everybody to see, but we're so hung up on, oh, this motherfucker did this today, he did that yesterday, and we forget about everything that happened 5 years ago that you were pissed off at, and it's all coming to light. Like, let the sun shine.
We do have Dr. Felicia from the audience, and she is in the great state of Georgia. Dr. Felicia, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'm all for opening up the records, and the way they set up the law regarding medical cannabis, they wrote it into the law to keep the application process opaque. So I'm not surprised, and I know for a fact that two of the winners of this application process certainly made contributions to Kim. So it's a big pay to play kind of situation, and it's unfortunate for the people of Georgia that we've been waiting for 7 years to get medicine, and because people want to be crooked and be backdoor dealing, that people still don't have the medicine. So I'm quite disgusted with the whole process.
Amen.
Very, very,
Amen.
very fair. Yeah,
Information.
Thank you, Dr. Felicia.
Dr. Felicia just said it best. And the only thing I want to just add to that is, information is the only truly valuable resource that we have. Of course, it's going to be kept by a very few number of people so that they can profit first and they can get what's good for them. And so unseal everything is my stance.
What about the people that say no seal, no deal?
I mean, you got to take it on a case by case. Okay. With that,
Check for a wire.
Yeah.
there you go. Dale knows.
We got to keep it moving. Coming up next, this 35-year-old practicing attorney with 23 years in California cannabis space. Dale is a former member of the club Feds, serving over 52 months for cultivation and intent to distribute to a handful of terminally ill patients. He's also now the co-owner of California Medical Research Center and is now a founding partner of the Armada Law Corporation. Coming up and giving you the real is none other than the Dale Schafer.
Good morning. Good morning. My story comes out of Lexology. The headline is the FTC proposes rule to ban non-compete clauses with very limited exceptions. On January 5th, the Federal Trade Commission voted to publish a proposed rule that basically wipes out non-compete clauses in employment agreements. And what they've done is defined employees very broadly. Anybody that works, a natural person that works for somebody is basically employee covered by this. And they've defined the terms of a prohibited non-compete as if it has the effect of prohibiting a worker from seeking or accepting employment with a person or operating a business after the conclusion of the worker's employment with the employer. So I've done tons of these. California does not allow non-compete, but we do a lot of aggressive non-disclosure and confidentiality agreements so that if you work for a company and you learn how the gears all work, you can't disclose confidential information. It involves trade secrets. But California is on the forefront. And if you're a business person, you think guys have their head up their ass. They're just publishing too many rules and regulations. But that's the potato perspective on this. The Federal Trade Commission is a federal agency. There are what we call enabling statutes passed, which allows them to publish these sorts of rules. And if you've ever been part of a rule promulgation process, they publish it, you get some period of time to comment on it. And then if everything seems to be appropriate, then you get a time to implement it. So that's what's coming here. And because of this is so broad sweeping across the country, anybody who represents employers, as I do, needs to be paying attention to this, because I've written a shitload of these things. And I've always warned my clients in California, these are not enforceable. Now you're going to have to proactively go out and look into your past and present employment contracts. If you have them, you have to get rid of the current ones. And anybody that's a former employee, you've got to notify them. So there's things coming here that are going to cause businesses to shit themselves about having to apply with this stuff. Because within the cannabis space, especially, you can't get patents. It's just almost impossible to pick up patents. But there's a lot of trade secrets. Now, the recipe for Coca-Cola is a trade secret. Everybody knows what the hell it is. But it's the trademark that go with it. There's problems with trademarks in the cannabis space also. So trade secrets are where this tends to be the battles. And what we're going to see as this goes forward, there's going to be comment coming. And we'll see how much money gets paid to go backdoor policymakers here to try and limit this from the business standpoint, because this is going to have a major effect. And I honestly don't know how this is going to be rolled out, because we can't even, unless you go to court, how do you enforce these now? Is this agency now going to have a new enforcement branch to go out and look at your employment contracts and preemptively intervene in these situations? That's my story for today. This will be rolling out. And back to you guys. What do y'all think?
Non-competes aren't valid in California, right? Anyways,
they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, and
people still want them, though, Rico. Yeah. I just have to tell them, I'll write it there, but I'm telling you, it's not enforceable. And if somebody comes after me for malpractice, I wrote here and you signed it, motherfucker. I told you not to do this. That's what I have to do in California.
Yeah, yes. I learned my lesson on signing shit without sending it to the lawyer first.
Yeah.
I didn't say I was a good lawyer, but that's what I do to cover my ass.
Right.
I mean, and Dale, this is a proposed ban. This hasn't actually started yet. What are the next steps for it to actually be a certified ban?
Well, it'll go into the to be published. The Federal Register will publish it, and then I think you have 60 days in the Fed to offer your comments. Okay, And then once that's up, it goes back in-house. They make sure there aren't any other conflicts with other administrative laws. And then it goes on the books as a rule. Okay. And I don't see that happening before the end of spring, maybe early summer. Mm-hmm. And we'll have to watch the pushback these agencies get from especially the business community.
Yeah, it's going to be super, super interesting. And I when I saw you post the story, I was very excited. I was like, oh, this is going to be a humdinger right here. Like, people are going to freak out because of this right here.
Well, I hope that the government moves ahead with this ban. Almost every job I have had in my life has involved a non-compete clause. And it has made life extremely difficult in moving on to the next position. Even my first job in cannabis had a non-compete, which I did have to fight to move on to my next role. So they are ridiculous and bullshit. And I really hope that this is something that they take care of.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to keep us updated on the progress of this story, right, Dale?
Oh, absolutely. This is one of many that we're going to see. The Dormant Commerce Clause will come back again for RICO and fighting social justice to the Dormant Commerce Clause. There's a bunch of themes that are coming from me, and we'll pick this back up and watch it, because I do primarily business representation in the cannabis space. So from the business perspective, this is going to cost them a lot of money. But my grandpa was a Teamster, so in my heart, I'm a union kind of guy. And look at this, like, God damn it. Yeah. Stop fucking with people who want to go get a job and calling it, oh, it's my trade secret. No, I learned how to deal with the fucking idiot who was my manager, and I want to go someplace else where I can make the business run, and I have to deal with that fucking idiot who was my manager. And that's not a non-compete situation. It should be just gone away.
I mean, a lot of these trade secrets are as much of a trade secret as like double knotting your shoelaces is a trade secret for your shoes to not come untied.
It's like I say, if you're trading secrets, it ain't a secret at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we got to keep it moving here, everybody. Up next, this feminized Lone Star state advocate and storyteller is the co-founder of Grow House Media, pumping out some of the most entertaining industry-specific content anybody's seen coming from a non-legal state, period. She can be found weekly on her podcast by the same damn name, Feminized, where she interviews some of the dopest women in the game and is all about gifting, giving, and living life to its fullest. Up next, she is the windowsill booth botanist herself, Liz Grow.
Oh, God, that was gold, Rico, just gold. Just wait till you get high on the supply of booth window weed from Texas. We're not here to talk about Texas today, guys. I have a very happy story to share with you all. It's legal weed sales start in Connecticut at 7 medical dispensary establishments. Connecticut's first round of retail cannabis sales for adults 21 and over began Tuesday at 7 existing medical marijuana establishments across the state, less than 2 years after Governor Ned Lamont signed legislation making Connecticut the latest state to legalize recreational sales. As many as 40 dispensaries, along with dozens of other cannabis-related businesses, are expected to eventually open in Connecticut by the end of 2023. So today is historic. But the real story is about the benefits that come with the transformation of lives and communities, said Adam Wood, the president of the Connecticut Cannabis Chamber of Commerce. In a statement, he estimates the new industry will create more than 10,000 jobs over the next couple of years and generate hundreds of millions of dollars in new revenue that will help benefit communities most impacted by the war on drugs. We're going to have to put a pin in that because we need to check back because there's a lot of talk about that. Anyway, moving on. Lamont, a Democrat, said Tuesday that one of the goals of legislation that legalized recreational marijuana was to create a regulated, safer product for consumers. Another part of the law allows convictions for low-level marijuana crimes to be erased, many automatically. Y'all, nearly 44,000 such convictions have been erased since the start of the new year. Wow. I just get a clap for that. Recreational sales were allowed to begin at 10 a.m. on Tuesday at 5 state-approved shops who were expected to open their doors to the general public on the first day. In Montville, local state lawmakers and the mayor turned out for a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the Botanist. Lynn Goldstein, 60, of Norwich, Connecticut, was the first customer in line of Montville. She said she suffered with chronic pain since 2011 and has been a medical marijuana customer ever since, as soon as she could. She said she was glad that recreational sales are now legal, but has some concerns. I do worry about the young people because they don't know how to handle it, and they'll be driving stoned, and it's going to be very hard for police to figure out what's what, she said. So, Kate Nelson, Senior Vice President of The Botanist, said that about 200 to 300 medical marijuana purchases were made on average at the Montville location. She's predicting there will be 150% uptick in sales during the first week of recreational business. Now, y'all don't get too excited. Initial sales in Connecticut will be limited to 1/4 of an ounce, so 7 grams of cannabis flower or equivalent, in an effort to ensure that there will be enough support for the medical marijuana patients. Guys, I'm just so thrilled to bring you this story from deep in the heart of Texas, because you know we are jonesing for some bud here in Texas, okay? And I'm always excited to see states just adopt more robust cannabis programs, especially, adult use. So this is Liz Groh reporting for High at 9, and I want to hear from y'all. You excited about Connecticut or what?
I mean, I think they're going to do extremely well. All right. Connecticut is a very affluent state. They have a lot of money in that small, tiny little state of theirs.
Did they open
a lot
up
of colleges?
The cultivation opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, he estimates it's going to open up about 10,000 jobs. It's like, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, because I know, previously they had four? I think it was like 4 state approved cultivators, and last year 2 of them went down with huge mold infestations. So you have 50% of the entire output just shut down.
Yikes!
Speaking of that, I heard
like Florida is setting up to be.
Speaking of that, I heard all the product in New York is getting recalled right now. You know what I'm saying? But that's neither here nor there. But
it'll be in a trap shop.
Yeah, I feel like all this product, they're only allowing customers to purchase up to 1/4 ounce. Is that a day, Liz, or is it just per visit?
That's a really good question. I'm not going to answer it because I don't think that the article said.
Exactly.
It's probably per visit. They haven't gotten.
I smell a loop.
Together.
I smell a looping clause coming on.
Yeah.
I see a bus tour. Let's go get dispensaries. Everybody walks in with 1/4 ounce and go up the block and get more.
Yeah,
and then meet your homies around the corner. Come on, man, this is great.
And they're saying 1/4 ounce because they have a shortage of cannabis in Connecticut. You're telling me.
It sounds like they have that. They only have a couple of approved cultivators, so they only have a couple of sources for that shit. So it sounds like a bunch of people are going to be crossing over to Massachusetts.
We have Lisa
4 or 5 years.
We have Lisa joining us from Clubhouse, and she is a registered nurse in the state of Connecticut. What do you have for us, Lisa?
Hi, everybody. Registered nurse, and cannabis patient here in Connecticut.
Nice.
It's a shit show. It's almost laughable.
Keep it a buck.
We have 4 growers in the state. They're all MSOs. We have the dispensaries that opened yesterday. 7 out of.
Did we lose you?
Lisa, you with
us? She's got Rico's computer.
Lisa.
Hey.
Lisa, we lost you, Lisa.
There
we go.
Rolling down the smoking your Stradivarian XR 277, and we sold such shit. We delayed opening for like a year so that we would ensure the medical patients had their supply. And yet for 2 weeks before we opened, they were saying, get your supply. There's not going to be enough. And apparently it doesn't matter because nobody bought this shit that we sell here anyway. So long live the trap.
Long live the trap from the nurses.
Yeah, the trap never die. Lisa, are people still going over to get most of their stuff from Massachusetts, or are they getting it from other places now?
We're big fans of Maine. We are big fans
of Maine. Shout out to Maine.
Maine caregivers. The main caregivers know what's up. And the Connecticut traps that are winning are just going to Maine, buying, coming back, and delivering it to Connecticut residents. That's the game now.
Welcome to cannabis.
I love it. New England weed.
I love
it. Congrats on the legalization.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you, Lisa, for coming up. But we got to keep this moving. Coming up next, he's a cannabis wizard doing his damnedest to continue the work of the merry pranksters and the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. Alongside this Hogwarts PhD in tripping balls, he's also the co-host of What's Good, the Cannabis Flower and Hash Review Show, as well as host of Radio Free Earth podcast, boasting over 33 years in the game for genetics cultivation. He is none other than the immortal Transylvanian Count himself, Mathieu St. Germain.
Thanks, Brother Jason, and everybody else. Happy Wednesday. My story is in line with the same thematically with Rico and Gretchen's. It comes direct from High Times, and it's a study reveals that California law enforcement is more likely to arrest black teens. The 6th annual report published on January 1st by the Racial and Identity Profiling Advisory Board made many observations about California's law enforcement officers. Over the past 4 years, the data collected under the Racial and Identity Profiling Act has provided empirical evidence showing disparities in policing throughout California. This year's data demonstrates the same trend in disparities for all aspects of law enforcement stops, from the reason for stop to actions taken during the stop to the results of the stop. The report spans data that occurred between January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021, and analyzes information from 58 law enforcement agencies and the negative impacts of citizen interactions with police with a focus on youth. In the 2021 timeframe, more than 3.1 million stops were reported, and this is just in California, folks. In the terms of perceived race or ethnicity, police agency states that 42% were Hispanic Latin, 30% white, 15% black, 5.3% Asian, 4.8% Middle Eastern, 1% multiracial, and the rest were aggregated. Reasons for a law enforcement stop include either a traffic violation at 86% or reasonable suspicion of being engaged in criminal activity. Come on, what's that? 10.5%. Black individuals had the highest percentage of stops in regard to reasonable suspicion at 16.2%, but also the lowest proportion of stops for traffic violations at 80.5%. So come on, car insurance companies. The RIPA board found that black and Hispanic individuals are more likely to have force used against them compared to white individuals. Black teens between the ages of 10 to 14 and 15 to 17 experienced the highest rate of being searched by the police at 20%, detained at 18%, and handcuffed at 15.4%, as well as being removed from a vehicle by order at 7.6%. Black adolescents were detained curbside or in a patrol car 36 to 44% of the time, searched over 40% of the time, handcuffed over 30% of the time. Ultimately, this data shows that teens who are perceived to be black were searched 6 times the rate of white adolescents, and those perceived to be Hispanic were searched 4 or more times. The interactions that teens have with law enforcement, including repeat interactions, impact those individuals' mental health. Research shows that the types of contact and frequency of involuntary contacts with law enforcement may have a harmful impact on the individual stop, triggering stress responses, depressive symptoms, anxiety, and other related negative mental health impacts. This research suggests that racial and identity profiling goes beyond the criminal legal system and policing and is also a critical public health issue. Based on the research, the board believes that the public health officials and policymakers should treat racial and identity profiling and adverse policing as significant public health issues. It is imperative to recognize that police interactions can negatively affect the mental and physical health of individuals who are Black, Hispanic, Indigenous, and other peoples of color. Doing so could help significantly reduce the high stress, community fragmentation, and poor health outcomes among community members who experience targeting of their neighborhoods and aggressive policing practices. Given this, adequate resources should be invested to understand and address the health implications of racial and identity profiling. And this goes, back to the history of our country, as well as the foundation of Western European principles on Christian institutionalized white supremacy, COINTELPRO and the program by the FBI, as well as the CIA, to target Black Americans and keep them from having self-efficacy and self-agency and their own generational wealth. And I think that this is ripe for all of us to discuss. And thank you very much.
Cops gonna cop.
What's that?
You have the aggressive. I would like to see a cop exchange. Like send these aggressive ass cops from the hood, send them over to the white neighborhoods, and send the nice ones over to the black neighborhoods.
Cop exchange.
Let's do that. Cop swap.
How do you determine the nice ones? Tell us who the nice ones are. What's that criteria?
I think another thing
buddy,
that's important is that
I catch you speeding over here one more time. I'm going to give you more than a warning. Okay, Bob? All right.
I think another thing that we've lost is community policing, and the police officers should live in the communities that they police.
A million percent.
You live in the community you police, you grow up, all of a sudden, instead of seeing these people as some, as being some occupying force for some, alien tribe of people, you're actually with them and you're growing up with them, and the moms and the aunties and the uncles, and the kids coming up. And you understand, you get as a law enforcement officer at that point, I would think that then you would get a perspective as how to really help these people improve their lives, and you could be of service.
Yeah, but I don't think that's going to solve anything in LA though, because the sheriff's department runs by the Constitution, and they can do what the fuck they want to do, and they are a certified white supremacist gang now. And last year. A year and a half ago, when I moved to South Central, actually saw these motherfuckers on horses, looking like a bunch of slave catchers out here in South Central, riding through the fucking streets with fucking with AKs and fucking cowboy hats, riding through the streets. LA Sheriff Department, all the way out here, perusing the black neighborhoods, just intimidating folks. That's the kind of shit you got to deal with. We got to stop these sheriff's departments from answering to nobody. They answer to God.
Rico, we have Dr. Felicia up. I think Dr. Felicia has a comment on this. Are you with us, Dr. Felicia?
Yeah, I apologize for the background noise. I'd like to point out that this is happening in California, the state with the longest history of legal medical cannabis. And this is why we say reparations are needed. Everybody don't want to have a business or a cannabis business. That's why people who are being swept up in this racial profiling should be getting cash awards. That's what I think. And I took care of a vet the other day who's a police now, and he said the same thing that St. Germain just said. The people who police in the community should have grown up in that community. Start recruiting out of the community and have those people be in the community instead of putting other people who are afraid of their shadow and shooting people at the slightest excuse.
Yes, indeed.
I totally agree with those statements in regards to the neighborhood policing and the fact that cops should live in the neighborhoods that they do police. I just think it creates a much better community environment. It makes people engage with people as opposed to just a subject or just a random interaction, because these are the people that you're going to be around on a constant basis.
Period.
How do you get that accomplished though? Because I've represented cops. I've been inside cop politics. I've seen how they react when one of their brothers gets killed going into an enforcement action, and their butts pucker up. They circle their wagons and trying to get into that and convince them that, we need to do mental health to places where they're sent, and they're encouraged to be afraid when they go in there. It's a bad system. And trying to get more people in there that understand the community is a wonderful thing. But the policymakers and law enforcement like the old ways. And the old ways were very racially discriminatory. Yep. California had Jim Crow the whole time it was growing up. It just didn't call it that.
Yep.
You go to LA County and you're black down there, you got a hell of a different problem that I had when I was rolling around down there.
Yes, and let's not forget to educate ourselves on the history of the police and the sheriff. The police were created in America as a force to control runaway slaves and freed black persons. The sheriffs were created in Europe to protect the king's property, i.e., livestock, water rights, and land rights from the serfs and peasants who they stole those resources from at the point of a sword. And we watched one of the things we've been talking about is the English royal family. We've watched the English royal family perpetrate that same crime on the entire world for the last 600 years plus.
Yeah, but it's adolescent and young males that all these laws are targeted at. And
I agree, Dale.
We got young men who have more testosterone and less brain matter. They're fucking violent. They steal. They got problems. We don't have an answer for them other than stick the cops on them. It just doesn't work.
Right. Mental health support for families that are poor and indigent, support for single mothers, and finding healthy outlets for everybody, because really every human starts out as a baby full of potential, and every person wants to be good and contribute. And most people are shunted off into criminality and malignant forms of antisocial behavior because of lack of opportunities in childhood trauma, sexual, drug-based, or violence-based.
When you want to grow some of the best weed in the world, then you must start with the best genetics in the world. Go to www.dnagenetics.shop to order regular, feminized, or autoflower beans. All of your favorite DNA genetics cultivars such as Kosher Kush, Skywalker Kush, and oh yeah, Chocolate Truffle Shuffle. Boasting more cannabis awards for their award-winning genetics than any other company in the world. Remember to go to www.dnagenetics.shop to see why our terps don't lie.
Thank you all out there for tuning in with us for yet another episode of High at 9 News. You can always catch us weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our live audience members and online supporters tuning in, giving us feedback on the daily news headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. Our vetted industry correspondent team tuning in from all over the global community, bringing us the much needed variety of perspective and adding your respected opinions to the conversation. To our production team, thank you, Cloud Media Partners. Thank you, House of Fuego, and the wonderful Jaja Simone out there holding things down for us on Clubhouse, keeping our AV struggles to an absolute minimum. And to our haters, y'all never cease to amaze me. The vitriolic waste that you spew daily in the comment sections and also subliminally on your own social media pages is the most invigorating source of life energy since known to modern man since the discovery of adrenochrome. Please keep doing what y'all do so we never need to visit the Bohemian Grove. If you know, you know. And finally, Cannabis Sativa L, the reason High at 9 News team shows up and read these headlines every single day. We shall forever be in debt to your great beauty and wonderfulness. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And it's Wednesday, January 11th, 2023. Show's over. You've been blessed with today's top industry headlines. We hope there was enough to put in your pipe and smoke it at least until tomorrow. Y'all know who it is. Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street, signing off. And remember, when life gives you no place else to turn, you can always turn the fuck up. Run that motherfucker, Adam.